Hello, hello, hello. What's going on, everybody? You guys can hear me okay? Hello, hello? Okay. So, fuck, I don't have water. I need a water. You guys don't understand. If I stream without water, it's like, I don't know. It's just nothing bad really happens, but I'll probably have to get up and get a water at some point. And you guys don't want that. Nobody wants that. All right. Okay. We're going to start this stream off first with me asking everybody to like it. Second, who liked this chapter? I'm curious about this. Who liked this development? I need to feel out the stream temperature first so as to tailor my language. I'm obviously going to be honest with how I feel, but we got to... I framed this in a way that sounds like I'm not going to be honest with how I feel. Because, okay, first of all, I'm not upset about anything that happened. I'll just start by saying that. I'm not upset about anything that happened because, what do you call? I've talked about this before. Who knows that I've talked about this? I did this video a while back. Okay, so people liked it. Okay. I don't know because I saw a lot of people upset about it. So I don't know if people are like coming here because they want me to rant about it or something like that, because I don't really have any sort of rant. That doesn't exist. So, first of all, I did this video a while back talking about, like, in the first place, I felt like for a while, Bonnie's being set up to be... So I labeled this video like Bonnie will be Luffy's successor. I think a lot of people took that the wrong way. I just meant that Bonnie's written like a Luffy 2. She's been written like a miniature Luffy. That's how she's been written for some time now. Especially if you go back to her fucking core personality trait, like her core childhood situation, it's the same. Her drive is the same as Luffy's, which is she's stuck on an island. She wants to go out adventure, see the world and everything like that. It's the same fucking starting setup point as Luffy. So, I mean, obviously there's more factors that go into Bonnie's thing, but it's a lot of the same beats that are being replayed between Luffy through Bonnie. It just makes sense. I think where a lot of people are unhappy is the level of power and status that Bonnie suddenly seems to have. That's something else to discuss, but this isn't new. This isn't like she's been written like this, right? This isn't out of the blue. It's not out of the blue. So, and when I dropped this video, again, I think a lot of people didn't like it because they were just like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm like, this is just, I think I dropped this video literally the chapter after in the Kuma Bonnie flashback, she did the give me a Nika-ish future the first time around, and she did the giant gear third arm basically, and it's like, that's it. Like, Oda's being very on the nose with how he's writing this character. So I was surprised at the pushback from when I first dropped that video. I'm happy that people are more so coming around to like, well, that's just the way that it's being written. Because sometimes I'll drop videos and I'm like, I expect that there's going to be pushback and people are not going to be on board with the idea right away. And they'll be like, what the fuck are you talking about, Morj? Like, the raid's going to fail, stuff like that. I get that, all right? That's expected. But this wasn't one of those videos. So I put out that video and everybody was like, or not everybody, but a lot of people were like, what the fuck? No, Bonnie's not going to, we don't even know if she's going to join the crew and shit like that. That video got a lot of pushback. And I was like, how's this? He fucking wrote her trying to have a Nika-ish future as she sets off for the seas the same way fucking Luffy did in chapter 1. And she's doing gear third arms and stuff. And like, she's the same personality as Luffy. I was like, I don't understand why this one's weird. Anyway, let me catch up on supers real quick. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. Real Linskov. Oh my god, let's not play this game. Real Linskov, thank you. Putting a hit out on fake Linskov 30 million berry. He's only worth 30 million berry? That's not that high. Those are East Blue numbers. You got to get those numbers up. Behenort, welcome to Pirate King tier. I really, really appreciate it. Obviously, you've been a long, long, long time supporter of the channel, so I really appreciate it. Thank you, Behenort. I hope you enjoy Pirate King tier. We're due for another Pirate King podcast around the corner soon. JWP, thanks for the 5. Hot take. I like the chapter short, though. The chapter is short. I will take the chapters being short and us getting them consistently over full... I'll take 3 13-page chapters in a row over 2 20-page chapters and then a break, 2 20-page chapters and then a break. I prefer the three in a row consistency, but I am biased as a content creator. I just prefer the regularity of 3 in a row and then, Also, I think she's definitely joined the crew. Would be weird as fuck now if she joins the revolutionaries or just goes back home. Lol. I think her joining the crew has been a given for a while, personally. Close to a given. I think that ever since Vegapunk basically literally said, take her out to sea with y'all, I think her joining the crew has been a given. So it's more so now, what is her role? I think her as a Straw Hat is pretty much a given, whether or not she's an official Straw Hat or just an apprentice or someone that they're taking on for some period of time. She's going to be on the crew, right, sailing with them for an extended period of time. So I think that's a given. The bigger thing is basically, what is her broader role in the story, and I suppose what is her broader role in the crew? How important is she going to be as a crew member? Because not all crew members are created equal at the end of the day. Like, Brook, while a great person to have around, his job is basically to play music, right? And cry when he meets Laboon, right? That's his job. Robin's job on the crew is to unravel all the secrets of the world, the entire will of D, and essentially make Luffy Pirate King. So, no offense, but it's just not all Straw Hats are created equal, you know? Some Straw Hats are even DEI Straw Hat picks, such as Jinbei. So, like, it's just, they're not all created equal. I feel like Bonnie, with the way that she's been written so far, with the pacifista situation in the first place, it was already set that she's going to be a very important crew member. And then this is just the kicker that she's also like a mini Nika as well, you know? Yeah. Caleb Brown, thanks for the 2. People are acting like Bonnie could fight Kaido. I imagine Bonnie can't copy Haki because Haki should be outside the realm of devil fruits. And at the end of the day, we all know that Haki is ultimately the most important thing. But, you know, the fact that she can do some devil fruit shit that's like, she can already take out vice admirals easily. Like, very, very easily. So that's a big deal. And so we kind of got to wait and see just how much she can do. Next chapter will be very, very telling. Next chapter will be very telling. I think we're all eagerly awaiting. Eagerly, some people a little bit anxiously awaiting, right? What's the phrase? On tenterhooks? Is that the phrase? On tenterhooks. Tenterhooks. I think tenterhooks is just not a used phrase anymore. Yeah, some people are waiting on tenterhooks for the next chapter. Just because a lot of people will be very upset if Bonnie turns out to be too strong. My expectation is most likely that she'll be able to do a lot of the things that Luffy can do, but just sans Haki, and that's, you know, the big piece of it that really matters, right? Justin Holland, what's up, man? Thanks for the 5. I see a master-student relationship forming in the Straw Hat crew, plus it may be the next step for Luffy to develop into the Pirate King. Hey, Roger had Shanks on the way up, right? Like, this is a thing. You can have an apprentice on the crew, you know? I've seen a lot of people say that, well, she was already a captain and everything already, but she really wasn't. Like, her crew was literally, her fucking, like, caretakers. Honestly, like, they were basically playing pretend pirates, right? And she did have to, of course, survive on the Grand Line in the New World, which is very, very, like, insanely impressive for any character to do on their own. Low-key, I don't think Luffy could have survived on the Grand Line or the New World on his own, like, because Bonnie lost her crew after the Blackbeard encounter 2 years ago. I think Luffy would have just died in the New World by himself, right? So what Bonnie did is very, very impressive. But at the end of the day, like, it's been more so like a little girl looking for her father, right? Getting by. This is going to be... They're in it from here on. Like, they're going up against the world government. They're going up against other Yonko crews. They're going up against, like, everything, right? So I do see, like, some sort of master-student relationship. Again, that's the video that I dropped a while back. Fatingo, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 21 months. Thank you. A close friend of mine said Oda is a fraud. This is funny. This is actually a really funny comment now that I'm reading it. All right. This is what Fatingo's friend said. I disagree with Fatingo's friend, but I think Fatingo's friend has a way with words. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. Fatingo's friend said, okay, a close friend of mine said, Oda is a fraud that burnt through all of his writer's talent for the next 5 years on the Kuma backstory. Unfortunately, my brother Mickey Mouse bullshit is the way. Okay, so okay. Let's get through some of the sentiments that people are feeling right now, and then we'll start talking a little bit more about how I feel. And a lot of how I feel will be addressed in next week's video, because I think it's a more complicated situation. It's not as simple as... I think the way I can paint it out is like, overall, I'm cool with it. I'm cool with the way things are turning out. My only thing... Here's my only thing, if this makes sense. I wish we had spent more time and focus on Bonnie as a character in Egghead to begin with, And I wish we'd gotten more of the backstory, like even extending the backstory out so that it could have been a Kuma half of the backstory and then a Bonnie half of the backstory. That's my only thing. I think I would have liked more focus on the character. And you will understand why, because you might be saying, Morj, we got focus on Bonnie and such. You might understand more why when I put out next week's video. But for me, it's not so much what she can do and how she can do it. It's how quickly has this character been inserted and then elevated to this level of significance, basically. I think that's it for me. But I'm cool with it overall, what's happening. I don't have a big issue. For me, it's more so just like it's the case with me with a lot of things in One Piece where it's like, I'm cool with this, I wish we'd gotten some more time with it, or I wish that this had been developed a little bit more, but I'm cool with the concept. Kind of like, I like how Luffy got Gear, I like Gear 5th as a concept. I love that at the climax of Wano. I would have preferred the method of Luffy awakening it being a little bit more character intensive. But that's really my own, like, rather than just like bonk, wake up with with god powers, you know. I prefer the character writing, but you know, we're gonna get to some stuff. Marcus Aurelius, thanks for the 5. Love the chapter. I teared up a little when Bonnie became Nika. I think that's the reaction that Oda's hoping for. Luffy believing in her while Kuma is happy for his daughter. Beautiful in my opinion. Great chapter. Let me just do the poll now. Why am I waiting? Let me do the poll now. Cheesy Skull says 3 Nikas to fight 3 Blackbeards. Ugh, we're getting another Nika in here. All right. Let me do the poll. How did you feel specifically about Bonnie becoming Nika at the end? Loved it. Cool with it. Neutral. Disliked it. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Blazing Blue, holy shit, thank you for the 20. Thank you very, very much. Something to keep in mind is that this level of growth for Bonnie and her fruit isn't unprecedented compared to Luffy. Both had their fruits for 12 years, both sailed the seas for around 2 years, Luffy maybe even less. I think that's an interesting point. I hadn't even thought about that. I think one part is like Bonnie started actually figuring out to use her fruit much more recently than Luffy. But to me, it's also almost just like they just have different ability. Like her fruit's just different. Like her fruit is fundamentally different than most other people's fruits. You know, her fruit is one of them. It's just a more it's just a really fucking powerful fruit. You know, that's all it is really. It's just a really fucking powerful fruit. She's got a really powerful fruit, but it's tempered by the fact that it's based on the power of potential, right? So it's not as though, like, once Bonnie... Here's the reality. I think if Bonnie's Luffy's age... This is my belief. If Bonnie is Luffy's age, if she reaches Luffy's age, I'm sure she'll survive to Luffy's age. But when Bonnie's Luffy's age, I don't think she'll be able to turn into Nika anymore, necessarily. I think the fruit is right now... I've talked about this in the past, which is that Bonnie's fruit... The same way Luffy's fruit is limited by his imagination, Bonnie's fruit is also, in a sense, limited by her imagination, but it's coming at it from a different angle. It's more so the dreams of children, like the things that children can, like a child can kind of imagine and conceive themselves being. Like a kid can imagine themselves like as an astronaut, as like a wizard, as like a whatever the hell, right? Like a kid can imagine themselves as those things. As long as a kid can imagine themselves and envision themselves as those things, I think that that's what that fruit gives you the ability to do. But it's a limited fruit in the sense that, like, once you're fucking, like, a Kainu's age or something, the fruit is kind of ass. You get what I'm saying? So it's a broken fruit only in the sense that only a child can really use it to its full potential. And that in itself is a nerf on the fruit, if that makes sense. Because a child is not going to be able to fight at the level of, like, you know, like a Kaido, a Shanks, you know, a dragon, stuff like that. So it balances itself out in that it's maybe the most unlimited fruit that we've seen, but it can only work in that manner when a kid is using it, and a kid is not going to be as combat capable as a lot of other characters. I think that's fine. I think that's a cool concept, honestly. I think conceptually it's a cool fruit. Dai Lon, thanks for the 2. Is Luffy's protagonist role reduced by the second Nika? So I guess there's the other factor, which is like a lot of people don't really like the fact that there's just another Nika because, you know, it's something that seems special to Luffy. I don't really know how to address that. Because for me, it's just like, that's a personal preference thing at the end of the day. If you don't like it, you just don't like it. And honestly, I can see that being fair, you know? If you like that it feels how special Luffy is in that sense, that this fruit chose him, this ability chose him, he's the only one that can do this, that can be this, that can represent this, that's fine. Like, that's understandable. I don't have a lot to say on that. I'm cool with Bonnie also being able to emulate it. It does feel very, I don't know. Like, it reminds me of, like, I feel like I've seen this shit in, like, I don't know, DC Comics or something like that, where, like, you know, you see, like, Superman, and then you see, no, you know what, like, there was a comic based on, like, the DC animated, like, Justice League animated series I watched of, like Green Lantern, and there was this girl who, like, really idolized Green Lantern, and then she was able to get a Green Lantern ring or something, and then do the things that he did. I don't know. But there's still only one Green Lantern. Like, the main Green Lantern. I don't know. Sorry, moving along. Vinny, thanks a lot. Bonnie top 1 in verse by time she Luffy's age. No, because it's, again, what I'm saying is, like, it goes the other way, right? It only works with futures that you can theoretically imagine yourself having. Bonnie, I don't think her fruit would allow her to have that sort of infinite potential as she gets older and older. Right now, she's a kid, so she can imagine herself being Nika. Again, I think it's the type of fruit where the older you get, the more limited it becomes. So, whereas she'll likely be I view the other way in the sense that I think that Bonnie will likely be one of the most powerful Haki users ever in the story period by the time she's, like, her peak adult age, but I think her fruit will be a lot more limited. Whereas at this moment, she's very powerful in terms of her fruit, but she's she's limited combat-wise, as we've seen outside of that. She hasn't really shown Haki. So we'll have to wait and see, but I think Haki-wise, she should be one of the most powerful characters ever, because just if you read about Bonnie, like, her journey as a child and everything that she did, it's pure, it's, like, set up for, logically, it should just make for insane Conqueror's Haki, you know? Young Smokey VP17, thanks for the 20. I want Bonnie for Nakama. I really hope Oda doesn't blue ball us like Yamato. The difference is that Bonnie has actually gotten fucking character writing and depth to her. I would still like even more. I would have loved even more focus than in Egghead, but, like, what happened with Bonnie is traditional Straw Hat writing, which is, you're not, like, you need some sort of a change, right? You need some sort of a change, some sort of a story, right? The Straw Hats, when they meet Luffy, don't usually like or buddy up with Luffy necessarily, right? There's some way that Luffy changes them from who they were before to turning into somebody else, and that process makes them a Straw Hat. Yamato didn't have that. Every other Straw Hat has that. Zoro, Usopp, Nami, Sanji, Chopper, Robin, Frankie. Like, it's just from start to finish, meeting Luffy changes something about them, right? They have a realization, their perspective on the world, something shifts. Yamato didn't have that. Yamato had zero writing whatsoever. Bonnie's like, this is perfect Straw Hat writing. I would just like perfect template Straw Hat writing. I would have just liked more of it in Egghead, and I would have loved more time spent with her during the Kuma backstory. That's all. But we're still in the middle of Egghead, so we still can get more out of Bonnie. Japanese Jim, thanks for the 5. Thematically, overall, I think it's cool with Oda pushing the idea that people should have the freedom and creativity to shape their own future. Yeah, no, Egghead is one of the biggest themes of the arc is dreams. It just makes sense that Bonnie's going to be a focus of this arc, and her abilities are going to reflect that. Team Caps is Brook, hell, even Jinbei. Yeah, Brook just to a lesser degree, because he was more of a fully formed old-ass character, but even with Brook, him meeting the Strides did change his perspectives on certain things. Brook, I do think, is the most shallowly written Stride for his original arc. But even Jinbei, when Jinbei first, Ace started telling Jinbei about Luffy, he's like, can you watch out for my brother? Jinbei's like, no, I don't know the guy, I'm not going to look out for him. The process of, Jinbei meeting Luffy, seeing who Luffy is, understanding the depth of Luffy's character to finally being this is the man that I'm going to protect with my life, that is going to be the Pirate King, that's writing. Yamato's more like a Bartolomeo, where it's like they heard some stuff about Luffy. It sounds really fucking rad. I just want to join because Luffy just sounds really good. There's no writing involved there. It's essentially the same level of writing as a gag character like Bartolomeo. Yeah, dick so small I piss on my balls. Thanks for the 5. If the message resumes, whether or not the elders go after the submerged robot will confirm if they're Zoans. Ooh, that's an interesting point. But I don't think the message is going to pick up as far as I can tell. Also, let's get the stream lights up to 200 real quick. Marcel Beans, thanks for the 5. What if Joy Boy actually had Bonnie's fruit, and after that the Nika fruit came into existence because of the dreams of the people who wanted them to return? No, that's an interesting little idea, but like at the same time, Joy Boy awakening, like Luffy awakening his fruit, that's what prompted Zunisha to say that, you know, Joy Boy has returned, and Zunisha probably knows what's up. You know, Zunisha's from the olden days. And then on top of that, you've got the Gorsates that are, they're really talking up the Nika fruit. I think the Nika fruit ultimately was that fruit, you know? Was the fruit Joy Boy had. Is it ILY swag? Thanks a lot. And also thanks for the first super ever. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 200. She's like a kid trying on the mask for hero. Yeah. And I guess like a lot of people, it feels like too sacred. Like you shouldn't just be able to get the Nika powers like that. Look, that's like a feelings thing. I can understand if you might feel that way. I think this... To me, it's the simple fact that we've kind of been building towards this. Like, Oda's kind of laid the groundwork. Like, he was having Bonnie say, give me a Nika-ish future way back during her own backstory and using Luffy-like moves. So, we're already headed in that direction. So, to me, this is not a shock, you know? Young Smokey VP17, thanks for the 20. Holy shit, I also hope where Vegapunk says among you is, I hope he says traitor, either referring to Blackbeard or even Emu. I don't want Vegapunk to be saying among you is a savior, aka Luffy, just more interesting the other way. I feel like whatever Vegapunk has to be saying has to be something that goes against basic logic, right? Because if he's just saying among you is the next Joy Boy or the next Nika or something, that's like already information the reader knows. Even saying there's a traitor, it's kind of like we already know Blackbeard's bad, so I feel like there should be some more information to it than that. But I agree that it shouldn't just be something straightforward, because then why cut it off, you know? Nerve AMV Maker, thanks for the 2. Bonnie's going to be stronger than Law and Mid. Let's hope so. As for Bonnie's actual strength, I think we're just going to have to... Like, at the end of the day, Haki plays a big role in your actual strength, but Law and Mid are really, like, atrociously, embarrassingly bad at Haki for characters that claim to be Yonko first mate level, you know? They never learned. No one taught them. They're just little children walking around. Like, Bonnie's a child, but they're, like, you know, Law and Mid are essentially children when it comes to Haki. They're just like Bonnie. They're just, you know, traveling around the New World, relying on their fruits to get them by. No real Haki skills or anything like that. At least Bonnie's excuse is that she's a child, whereas Law and Mid and Bum are grown-ass adults who should have learned at some point or the other. But no, they get to just rely on their devil fruits to just carry them through, you know, battle after battle. Devil fruits and random TNT, you know, piles of TNT just lying around. Neo X7, thanks for the 20. Think this cements your theory as Bonnie as the Shanks to Luffy's Roger. That's what I'm saying, man. Just look at him. Mixed feelings about Gear 5th. Like her being the Straw's successor. I do think Bonnie's going to pick up the Straw after all this is done. If Luffy ends up passing it on by the end of the story. And being Nika in front of her dad, Kuma the believer, but I think it came too fast. You phrased exactly what I felt, which is just my only thing with Bonnie, period, is literally, like, this whole situation is just the speed of it. I think if it had been... so similar to Momonosuke, right? Momonosuke, I think, if we'd gotten to spend a similar amount of time and story focus on Bonnie as Momonosuke and led up to a similar sort of moment where Momonosuke turns into an adult dragon and has to, you know, carry Onigashima and everything like that, right? He ends up having to do this sort of mirror role where, like, he's got the same powers as Kaido now and he's got to do the same things, right, at the climax of Wano. I think that I would have really liked if we just gotten to spend a bit more time with Bonnie. I get that Oda's just got the arc that he's got to work with, and he had the amount of time that he had to work with, and he couldn't really include her earlier or whatever. But yeah, I guess that's my only thing with this, is that I would have felt more for Bonnie if we'd spent even just I think if we'd gotten a few more, because there's really only one chapter in her backstory that was devoted to Bonnie. I would have loved to spend more time on Bonnie. That's basically it. Because she's being pushed to a very, very high status right here, right? Very high level of significance in the story. She's the next Nika. She's already the one that can basically flip the entire world government's pacifista army, which is kind of their ace in the hole. She's the one that can flip them, right? So she already had a very high status. She got promoted to very high status in the narrative. And then now the Nika abilities... likely being set up as a sort of Shanks figure to Luffy, I feel like she got a very elevated status very quickly. So my thing is not so much what happened. I would have just loved to spend some more time with her. For me, again, like, Momonosuke is a good example in that he's been with us for a long time. He spent a long time in the story. We got to really take our time with his development. And I think, like, readers really welcomed sort of any sort of major role that Momonosuke suddenly got pushed up to play by the end of the Wano arc, right? And as it seems like the Shogun going forward and everything like that, because we got to spend the character time with him. So I think it would have been nice if we got some more character time with Bonnie, but I think ultimately this was the direction that she was always headed from the start, right? Yokai Gota, thanks for the 5. On the one hand, Bonnie should stay with the Revs and Kuma, but on the other hand, Bonnie traveling with the future Pirate King also sounds cool. I think she's going to be traveling with the future Pirate King. Like, there's certain things on the Straw Hat crew where it's like, well, this person theoretically should be with the revolutionaries. Like, Robin's a great example. Robin, theoretically, the revolutionary army, if she'd never met the Straw Hats, the revolutionary army would have been the perfect home for her. Like, the perfect home for her. Protected from the world government. Everybody in the revolutionary army is already fucking wanted by the world government. She would have been, like part of a happy family there. They could have really used her poneglyph reading ability, etc. But she found the Straw Hats. And at the end of the day, that was what was meant to be, and it was better for her in the long run. Dila Joyboy, thanks for the 5. BBL Morji, I'm hoping that the Iron Giant will be supercharged by 2 Nikas and finally pop out and show Nika's K-Dot. Yeah, I don't really know much what happened with Kendrick's show today. There was some big news about his show today that I guess I missed a lot of. I know that some stuff was happening. I just don't know the details. 1 second. Dick so small, I piss on my balls. Thanks for the 5. Hope. Oh wait, fuck. Flew by. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Hope we have a combat scene where Bonnie ages up Luffy as a boost and he looks like Garp. That would be cool, but I feel like I would rather just see Luffy hit his prime naturally over the course of the story rather than an artificial buff by Bonnie. I want to see the natural growth. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 200 real quick. Tomas Primo Alves, thanks a lot for the 5. Bonnie is Yamato on steroids, in my opinion. No foreshadow prior to this arc, and now she seems more important than Straw Hats. No more Straw Hat-centric arcs until end of story. Well, for 1, we are end of story. For 2, Bonnie actually has character writing, whereas Yamato has none. So I think that's a big, big difference. I think, I'm not sure what you mean no foreshadowing prior to this arc, because, like, Bonnie's been around. Like, Yamato literally was just thrown into the story during the final battle of Wano. I do not think it is... There's no way to understate how fucking random Yamato was. Thrown into the story during the final battle. We did not fucking know that a character named Yamato existed throughout all the lead-up arcs to Wano, Punk Hazard, Dressrosa, Zoe. We had no fucking idea. Act 1 of Wano, Act 2 of Wano, Act 3 of Wano, we're finally getting rolling. We fucking get to Onigashima. The battle begins, and that's when we're finding out, hey, there's this character named Yamato. Bonnie has existed. Bonnie has been around since fucking Sabaody Archipelago. She's been in the background. We've been kind of trying to figure out her significance in the story. Akainu made it very clear that she is very significant when Akainu caught her. We knew that stuff was going down with Bonnie when, you know, we've seen her at the Reverie multiple times. In like the early 900s, we saw her at the Reverie doing stuff. Since then, like, Egghead Island, she was in Egghead Island from the beginning of the arc till now, right? This is not a Yamato situation. Like, she was the first character. Before even Vegapunk, Bonnie was the first character introduced at Egghead Island, right? I don't really know like I've already been voicing that I think we should have spent some more time with her, etc. Yada yada, fleshed her out even more. But that's just like that's my general sentiment on it, right? I still think it's fine. I feel like once you're comparing it to Yamato, it's like no, at least compared to Yamato, like Bonnie is like so far better written into the story than Yamato. It's just not even remotely close. You know what I mean? Like I still feel like Bonnie, we could have gotten some more focus on her in Egghead. I still feel like more in her backstory would have been good, in my opinion. Just to endear her more, like, just to endear, because she's being put into a very, very significant role, like a huge spotlight role in the narrative of One Piece from here on out, right? There's really, really big shit that she's, like, being promoted to, essentially, very quickly. So I think a little bit more time would have been good. You know, but that's just the way shit goes, right? Like it could all like something could always be better, something can always get more time. I think it's still fine the way it is. Once you're comparing it to Yamato, it's just like no, Yamato's the total opposite. It's just like Yamato is just fucking like the equivalent of Yamato would be like if right now that the final battle of Egghead is happening, now we're introduced to I don't know, fucking Saturn's cousin or some shit, or fucking Saturn's daughter, Saturn's fucking uncle, I don't know, and Saturn's stepson or some shit. We're introduced to Saturn's stepson now, and Saturn's stepson suddenly just becomes a huge fucking important point of the arc. And Saturn's stepson doesn't know anything about the outside world, but he read a lot about, like, some shit in a diary or some shit, and Saturn's stepson really fucking wants to sail with the Straw Hats because he's heard really good things about Luffy. I don't fucking know. And we're supposed to take it seriously and be like, oh, I guess this guy's the next Straw Hat. Does he need any writing? Nope. Why would he need writing? It's Saturn's stepson. What more writing could you ask for? That's like the Yamato shit. You get what I'm saying? It's very different from Bonnie. Anyway. Canute Worgen, thanks for the 5. I think your gripes would be resolved as well as mine when/if it better happen Kuma fully dies. Most haters are just Nika haters. I don't know. I think we'll just have to say. I think a lot of people really like Nika actually and dislike that that the specialness of Luffy being Nika is being taken away by the fact that now they're two Nikas. So I think that's maybe where a lot more of that's coming from. I'm not sure though. Black Lightning, thanks for the 5. Y'all are limiting it to her age, even though that's not stated in the story. Only thing Oda did is to limit it is her mental state at the moment. Let's actually take a look. Let's take a look. Maybe I'm not correct on that. So what chapter was this kind of broken down for us? Chapter 1104, I want to say. Chapter 1104, maybe. No, 1103, I guess. Let's take a look. So how our fruit works, let's see. Where does it explain? So, distorted future, Nika future. I'm getting weaker wise. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Its powers allow you to transform into any future, but the more you know of reality, the narrower your future possibilities become. Yeah, so I mean, like isn't that correct? The more you know of reality, the narrower your future possibilities become. Isn't that literally just like, as you age? I guess not literally, but a part of that would just naturally be like, as you age, your future possibilities, like, diminish, right? They just become narrower and narrower. Like, isn't it the same as basically like what we're already talking about, which is like a kid imagining their hero, what they dream that they could be, right? As you get older, you kind of realize that, like, Bonnie, like just in general, you kind of realize over time that you can't actually be that. Although it is a bit of conundrum because it's kind of like, because you have the fruit, as long as you believe that you can become that, you can become that. So I think it's a bit of a, like, it's a bit, circular in that sense, right? Because it's like, well, as long as I believe I can be Nika with my fruit, then I can be Nika with my fruit. So it's a little vague. I think it's a little vague. My interpretation was simply that it's like Bonnie and her whole character, the way that, you know, story's been passed down by her father, the way that she's written as this child, right? child with big dreams. My interpretation was that this is largely based on the power of childlike imagination and childlike wonder of what the future could be, what you dream, what you can imagine, things like that, right? I just don't know if like that same sort of ability to transform into anything would apply when Bonnie's like, you know, Frankie's age or some shit. I'm not sure. I guess we gotta wait and see. Maybe we get some more clarification next chapter. Ooh, thanks for the 5. She shouldn't be able to imagine herself as Nika because a person can only have one devil fruit at a time. Oda's having fun. Chapter was good, though. See, that's like maybe if Bonnie learns that, right, she might not. So that's like a possibility, right? Like if Bonnie learns that, hey, the reason Luffy's able to turn into Nika is because he ate a devil fruit and there's only one of that devil fruit in the world. Therefore, Bonnie realizes that, hey, I can't actually be Nika, right? Then maybe she can no longer transform into that future. I don't know. Those things are possible, right? Because, like, what the reason... So she failed to turn into Nika against Saturn because she kind of stopped believing in Nika, right? Then she sees Luffy as Nika, and now she starts believing in the concept of Nika again, right? So, I don't know. And maybe if she learns the source of Luffy's powers, maybe that kind of limits her future again. I don't know. It's a little vague. Daniel Wilson, thanks a lot for the 5. How do you think Kuma will react to Nika Bonnie? I don't know. I feel like it might be something as simple as just like smile on his face and flashback or something. I don't know if anything crazy. You know what I mean? Maybe just smile on his face and flashback. Because his brain's basically gone. Let me take a look at him again at the end of this chapter. Right? He's got no brain basically now. African Lays, thanks for the 5. Hi, Morj. I just wanted to know if I was the only one who finds Luffy's Gear 5th activation time a bit weird. Does he need to eat, or can he just use it? I really don't get why Oda's doing this. I think... So, here's the thing. There's one good theory that somebody on my streams... I forget who now. Somebody on my streams came up with this theory, and I think it's a really, really brilliant theory. Which is why Oda's playing up this Luffy needs to eat to use Gear 5th thing. Which is that it might be that in Luffy's final fight, when he needs to be in Gear 5th the entire time, he needs Sanji cooking for him the entire time. I think that could be cool. I think that plays into a lot of ideas in the story, down to even just like, without you, I can't become Pirate King. The value of food has always been very high in One Piece, and like the idea of like what Luffy values in general. I like that idea a lot, so that's my headcanon at the moment, but it's not like, that's not even what headcanon is. It's just a theory that I think hopefully comes true. Again, not mine. Viewer, I don't remember the name of the viewer, but I really like that idea. It just makes a lot of things click. It allows, it makes sure that Luffy's not too overpowered in, because if he can fight in Nika form just indefinitely, you could argue that maybe like just the uses could become just too powerful over time, right? Or it could make fights, like Luffy's really, 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 really fucking strong even without the Nika form. He was fighting with Kaido straight up even without the Nika form initially, right? So, the Nika form is just bonus, honestly, with where Luffy's at this point. So if the only fights that, like, the endgame fights, like maybe against Emu, Luffy needs to be in Nika form the entire time to just go absolutely balls to the wall, batshit crazy all out, I think that would make sense if then maybe, like, Sanji's cooking for him the entire time or something. I think that could be really cool. JWP, thanks for the 10. She should definitely have Conqueror's Haki. Most pirates can't make it to the Grand Line. Paradise is easy compared to the New World. 12-year-old Bonnie with a crew of civilians invades Marijua and makes it past 2 Yonko territories. So in the video that I actually have linked above, talking about how Bonnie's likely Luffy's successor, I talk about how, like, if you just list out everything Bonnie's done as a child, it is set up for insane Conqueror's Haki down the road. Like, insane. She's easily the most impressive child in One Piece history, as long as you exclude, like, a freak of nature like Big Mom. Like, Big Mom was just... She was the most impressive child in One Piece because she was fucking up all the giants at Elbaf, like, as a 5-year-old. So she's technically the most impressive, but at the same time, it's like, she's just physically a monster, right? It's not really fair. I'm saying once you dial it back to, like, the kids that are understandable kids, right? Like normal-ass kids, like Luffy, Zoro, Ace, stuff like that. Bonnie has the most impressive Haki. Not Haki, but like displays of will, what she kind of puts her mind to and everything like that out of all of them. or at least what she's accomplished, I suppose. It's not fair to say she's got a stronger will. I don't think that that's necessarily the case, but she accomplished a lot more as a child than any of them, right? Although I guess then you could say, well, she's got the most broke fruit out of them, so it becomes dicey. But, like, just having a broke fruit isn't the only thing. Again, Luffy has a broke fruit, and, like, he like, you know, like, we saw 10-year-old Luffy, like, he was, like, peeing his pants and stuff once Higuma caught him, right? Like, I don't think Bonnie's Bonnie's not like that, you know? Like, I think she's a bit tougher as a kid than, like, Luffy even was as a kid, you know? Again, this is all circling a lot. This doesn't mean Conqueror's Haki. I still think Luffy will have the highest Conqueror's Haki out of any character by the end of the story, obviously, but, like, I'm just saying Bonnie likely has really strong Haki, if you just look at how she was written as a child, you know? Yeah, it's tricky. Fuck, I'm gonna have to go get water in a second. Gabriel Lantis, thanks for the 5. Hey, Morj, do you think there's any chance the Iron Giant is talking about Bonnie in the final panel? That's how I read it initially. No. I feel like the Iron Giant's talking about Luffy. Right? Like, come on, it's Luffy. Fuck. Oh, man. I just feel like it's Luffy, right? I just don't think it's the Iron Giant. Alright, hold on. Kecker's Boy, thanks for the 5. The biggest missed opportunity of Dressrosa is Law not beating Dofi. Hopefully Bonnie gets to beat Saturn. I am really hoping that Bonnie gets to beat Saturn this arc, just because it's like, it's funny you brought up Law not beating Doflamingo, because it's something that actually comes up in my next little video. My next video that's coming out Tuesday. But Bonnie versus Saturn, I really, really think that would be a really cool possibility, because it kind of feels at this point as though Saturn is just not significant enough of a villain for Luffy to beat. Like, Saturn's kind of been the weakest of the Gorosei from what I can tell, so Bonnie beating Saturn I think would be really good. Or if Bonnie's joining the Straw Hats and the Straw Hats are getting matchups at the end of the story, Bonnie fighting Saturn then could be really, really good, right? Like, you get Luffy versus, like, I think Warcury gets taken by somebody else. I don't know. Dragon, maybe a Kainu, I don't know. Let's take Warcury out of the picture. Zoro versus Venus Juro end of story. Sanji versus Mars end of story. Bonnie versus Saturn. Who says no? I think that's possible. Kid Smitty 94, thanks for the 5. The 2 Kings speech we got from the Sea Kings was the end of the message. I don't think so. Because I don't think... You think that was the end of Vegapunk's... I feel like it's got to be information that we don't already know, you know? Shinkai 9, thanks for the 2. That Luffy successor theory looking great. Thank you. I mean, I think that it's basically the case. Like, it seems like it's just, like, this is Luffy's Shanks, essentially, right? TY, thanks for the 5. Do you think Oda is prepared to kill Kuma now that he's seen his daughter become Nika? I fucking hope that Oda is prepared to kill Kuma. Like, what more does Kuma need to see? If Kuma can see his daughter become Nika, like, he saw that Luffy was able to become Nika, so, like, Kuma's final act at Sabaody paid off. He was able to basically do everything that he needed to do. Kuma can die fucking happy. He even got a punch on Saturn in. Like, he got to see his daughter again. Like, everything you could possibly ask for Kuma to give him a powerful, sad, like, poignant ending, but at the same time, like, a bittersweet one, like, a one that has a happy end, like, a silver lining to it at the end of the day. Like, it would be perfect in the sense that you're writing the tragedy of Kuma's death, so the tragedy of his character still occurs, but the beauty of the will being passed on and him getting to witness that and him finally getting to see what he imagined as a kid for so long, as a Buccaneer child, seeing the vision of Nika that he was able to create with his own hands. Like, he's the reason that Luffy was able to become Nika, right? And his daughter, of course, right? Just everything works out perfectly. You get the happy ending for Kuma, essentially, right? And you get the dramatic weight of sending him off, which you've already prepared readers for, right? Because we've been ready for Kuma to die since the end of his flashback. Just do it, man. Just do it. Just go through with it. Please. Michael, thanks a lot. Do you think the Seraphims will grow up, and how? I do think the Seraphims will grow up, but before I thought that Bonnie's power would be abused somehow to make the Seraphims grow up, but now I just don't think that's going to be the case necessarily. So now I feel like maybe the Seraphims are just organically going to age up very quickly by the time the war comes around, right? I don't think the Seraphims will age at a natural pace. So if the war is like a couple months out, maybe the Seraphims are just going to be aging at a certain rate so that we have full-grown Seraphims by the end game. Gabriel Lantis, thanks for the 2. Maybe Bonnie is why Oda made the Supernova. I don't know. I think that it's possible that Oda had a few characters in mind that he figured would be significant, and then he made, like, when his editors told him to flesh out more characters, he was like, okay, let me make them the Supernova, basically, right? So it's possible that, like, Bonnie was always going to be a character, right? It's possible that Kid was always going to be a character. Oda said that he didn't expect Law to become so significant or whatever, so it's possible Law was not initially going to be a character, right? But imagine Bonnie was always supposed to be a character. Imagine, like, Kid was always supposed to be a character. And then Oda hits Sabaody, and his editors say, hey, we need to spice this arc up, right? So then Oda takes some characters that we're going to meet down the line, and he's like, okay, come to Sabaody. Like, here, Kid, you come to Sabaody. Bonnie, why don't I just say that Bonnie's journey has already gotten started, basically, and that she's an established pirate. So then he works her back to Sabaody, and he masks who she is by making her in her adult form and everything like that, right? Then Oda probably fleshes it out more with some characters that he knows aren't going to make it in the long run, like Hawkins, like Apu, shit like that. He just fleshes them out with these characters, and now you've got, like, the 11th Supernova, basically. And then there's some characters that Oda probably, like, was able to think out more, like Law, and he's like, this character turns into something significant, right? Attilio, thanks for the 5. Morj, are you still with that are you still with that girlfriend you were fawning over months ago? If that's so, ain't no way you got into Haikyuu with her telling you to. Movie slaps. No, because she does not watch anime. I've gotten her to try Full Metal Alchemist, which she's still not finished, but she's, she enjoyed however much she saw of it, but she's still not finished. So now she's kind of watching it on-off once in a while. As for her getting into Haikyuu, no, that was not the case. I got into Haikyuu just because I was at a stressful stretch, just general purposes-wise. Just generally, there's, like, a lot of stuff life-wise that was stressful, and I was like, I just want to watch a feel-good anime, so then I started watching Haikyuu a little bit. The movie slaps. I've heard good things about the movie. I paused Haikyuu just because, I don't know. Like, we finished the first regional tournament, and so now I kind of need, like, to get back into it, I guess. Like, I need some more momentum, because now it looks like they're going to go back into training and stuff like that, and I'm just like, I'm sure it'll be good. I know it'll be good. It's just, I need the momentum. I need to watch it. I need to power through a few episodes so that the ball gets rolling again. Haha. 24th Hokage, thanks for the 5. Kind of annoyed that the people of Alabasta think Luffy killed Vegapunk. As the first island we liberated in the Grand Line, it feels lame. Enjoy the Bonnie stuff, though. I've got my biggest beef with this chapter, which I'm just realizing now, is that Vegapunk didn't tell anybody anything. No, he told everybody a lot, but why didn't... Can somebody explain this to me in chat? Please, somebody tell me this in chat. Why didn't Vegapunk say that the world government is the one that blew up Lucia Kingdom? Right? What, like, did Vegapunk... I don't think Vegapunk said that, right? Why didn't Vegapunk make it clear that the world government is the ones that are going to kill him, and that they're the ones that blew up Lucia Kingdom, and that they're the ones that are going to blow up the world? That was the big piece that I thought was going to be thrown into this whole speech. Instead, he just said some mumbo-jumbo that most people aren't even going to understand. I don't get it. Did Vegapunk say that? Am I crazy? I might have missed something, but I don't think Vegapunk said the most important piece of information that I think we were all waiting for. I don't understand. Is he the world's smartest man or the world's dumbest man? If Vegapunk did make it clear that, hey, the world government blew up Lucia Kingdom, then he didn't know who fired the weapon, but he did. Oh, I guess he didn't, because, like, he just said that it got stolen or whatever. But it can only be fired by the world government because they're the only ones that have Uranus, right? The Mother Flame, Vegapunk doesn't know who stole it, right? It turns out it's York, but Uranus, only the world government has it. Only the world government has Uranus. Only the world government can blow up islands, right? Right? Correct? Jabari Harris says he said everything but world government bad. I don't get it. Why didn't he just say it? Rafael Rizzi Iglesias says he didn't know who got the flame, but who got the flame is irrelevant. If he assumes that Lulusia is being blown up, then he knows that, then he believes that the flame got in the hands of the world government. Because look, you could give me the mother flame and I wouldn't be able to do jack shit with it, right? You could, like, fucking Wapple could steal the mother flame and nothing happens, right? It's the world government that has the ancient weapon that the mother flame powers, which is what they use it for, right? Tomahawk PWPT says, we know that, but the Vegapunk doesn't know that. You think Vegapunk, I guess, just doesn't know that the world government has an ancient weapon? Wasn't he commissioned to make the Mother Flames for them? Or I guess not. Okay, he doesn't know they have it. 20 worse is all speculation. He wants to remain impartial and give the facts is how I see it. So, but he knows so much other stuff, right? Reading the speech, isn't it, like, clearly obvious to him that, I guess maybe he doesn't know it. I guess maybe he just doesn't know it. Maybe he doesn't know it. Maybe he doesn't believe that the world... I'm gonna leave this alone for the moment. This is not worth ranting on. I need to reread Egghead. We'll let Vegapunk off the hook for the moment. Let me reread Egghead, then come back to this man. 24th Hokage, thanks for the 5. No, we covered this. Leman, thanks for the 2. Saturn's stepson, Titan for Nakama. Vinny, thanks for the 8. I don't think her fruit is limited by age, but imagination. Like, if she's depressed, she can't be Nika. That's it, no? Yeah, but I assume that as she ages, she learns more about the world and what is or isn't actually possible, and then therefore realizes that she can't do this or that, right? I always felt like Bonnie's, like, the explanation that we kind of got, it pertained to the childlike sense of imagination of what is or isn't possible. Because I think that's why it's so important that Bonnie is a child that has this ability. I just don't think that if you gave this fruit to Akainu that it would work in the same way, in my opinion. Oli Wan says even if he didn't know that, he did know that they were the ones who were going to kill him. That's true. And he does know that the world government is bad. Like, he does know in general that the world government is bad. Like, that's not new news to him. In fact, like, didn't he and Dragon have that conversation about how they're both trying to, like, fucking save the world and overthrow the world government, but they're just going about it different ways, and that's what they talked about post-Ohara? Right? Wasn't that what their conversation was about? Why didn't he just throw in the world government fucking sucks? I don't know. Because the information that he's giving the people is essentially irrelevant information to them, right? He's just like, hey, there was a war 800 years ago. Like, listen, I don't care. In the real world, I don't care about wars 800 years ago. I don't know what wars happened 800 years ago. The fucking Revolutionary War that started America, that happened like, when? 400 years ago? Revolutionary War, America. Revolutionary War, America, that happened like 400 years ago. I barely care. I don't even care about that, really. I glossed over that shit when I had it in history class. I don't really care. I know that some stuff happened with the British. That's it. We rebelled against the British. We got away with it. That's basically it. And we started the country. And if some dude on a loudspeaker tuned in was like, hey, guess what? The Revolutionary War. There was a secret you didn't know about it. The British had the first pirate in history, and his name was Joy Boy. I'd be like, I don't care. If they were like, and guess what? The founding fathers, they were actually bad people. I'd be like, yeah, probably. They were slave owners and shit. I don't care now. That's that. Why is that relevant to me today? Vegapunk's speech was stupid. In retrospect, I thought he was going to tell the world about the world government, but instead he just told the world about some bullshit that, like, is not relevant to anybody. The relevant information is the true world of One Piece being under the sea. That's important. And then the true world of One Piece being under the sea is definitely very important. And the big thing is the rising sea levels. But if you're going to tell people about the rising sea levels, you need to give some idea as to who is going to potentially cause the rising sea levels down the line, right? Because if you don't tell them, like, hey, it's probably the world government, I don't have all the facts, I'm a scientist, I don't have all the facts, but it's probably the world government, If you don't tell them that, then what the fuck are they supposed to do? Just build houses higher? Was the purpose of Vegapunk's speech to get people to build their houses on higher ground? What was the purpose of Vegapunk's speech? What was the purpose of it? What was the purpose of Vegapunk's speech? What was he trying to accomplish? Was he trying to get people to turn against the world government? Was he trying to get people to wake up to the fact that there's like cities underneath the ocean? What does he want people to do with that? Was he trying to get people to... Because as far as I can tell, the only takeaway from Vegapunk's speech is he, like, if I'm just the common person, I'd be like, listening to that speech, I'm like, okay, if what this man says is true, then we should probably find real estate on higher ground. That's what this old man was trying to tell us. Is that it? Gonzai Ash says to make people question history, but making people question history only like, we're reading a manga, so for us it's juicy lore, but making people question history when it's 800, 900 years ago doesn't actually matter to anybody in real life, in the real world. Nothing changes for you or I if we find out that, hey, the Revolutionary War, some details were different than you imagine. I've already experienced this in real life, by the way, growing up. If you're a kid growing up in America, you've gone through, in my generation, you've gone through the process of learning that, hey, Christopher Columbus, he was actually like a really fucked up person, and we shouldn't celebrate him anymore. So you know the only thing that changed? We don't fucking celebrate Columbus any day anymore. We change it to Indigenous Peoples Day. It's not that big of a deal, though, that it's going to change the whole world, right? It changes my perspective on the past, but it's not that big of a deal. Like, for us, we're manga readers, so we're, like, excited that, oh my god, they're getting this big lore reveal. For the people of the One Piece world, why would they ever give a shit that the world government fought this dude named Joy Boy 800 years ago? Why is this relevant to them whatsoever? Why does it matter? Like, the fucking British people know that they live under an empire that once, like, conquered all these other empires, and that was, like, a lot more recent, right? They know that their fucking government is bad and was historically bad. They're like, cool, but mostly we're just focused on what life's like today. That's just the way the world works, you know? This is stupid. All right. Gonzai Atchis has made question what the fuck the Void Sentry was for Charlos' sister, at least. Yeah, I guess Charlos' sister. All right. Anyway, let's move it along. Eustace's Morj would have been laughing with Mocktown, LMAO. Light Yagami says ancient weapon from 800 years ago is being used. Yes. So, if that's the key takeaway that he's trying to get across, that ancient weapons from 800 years ago is being used, then if Vegapunk actually wants a result, he needs to tell people it's being used by the world government. It is likely being used by the world government. Because otherwise, it's just bullshit history, right? Just bullshit history that's irrelevant to anybody. Bullshit history. Doesn't matter. 800 years ago. I don't even know what the fuck the world was like 800, 900 years ago in the real life. Was it fucking medieval times? Was it even earlier than that? I don't fucking know. It's just a whole different fucking universe 800, 900 years ago. Nobody in the real world gives a shit what happened 800, 900 years ago, right? So that's irrelevant. So if the only thing of note that you're trying to get across to people is that there's ancient weapons that could blow up the world today, then what are you trying to get people to do? Are you trying to get them to just move to higher ground, get real estate on higher ground? Do you want them to raise their houses on stilts like they're fucking Tonjit from Long Ring Longland? Or are you trying to get them to take action and prevent this from happening, in which case you need to name that it's the fucking world government that is likely to be doing this shit, right? Otherwise, what's the point? What was the purpose? What was he trying to get people to do? Was he just trying to scare people? Like, if he's trying to scare people, to what end? Was it to the end of trying to get them to act against the world government? Or to the end of just, like, trying to get them to move to, like, fucking mountaintops or something? What does it mean? Akash Panda says he doesn't know that. So then why do the speech? What is the purpose of the speech? What is he trying to get people to do? Do you get what I'm saying? Like, I understand that he doesn't know that for a fact. But he does know for a fact that the world government is evil. He does know for a fact, we know for a fact that he's been trying to do things against the world government for some time based on his conversation with Dragon at Ohara, right? So we know that Vegapunk views the world government as the enemy. He knows that ancient weapons are around. Maybe he doesn't know that the world government is the ones using the ancient weapons, although he does know that the world government was one of the only two parties that were involved in the war that involved ancient weapons 800 years ago, and one of those parties, the Joy Boy party, is no longer existent, meaning that there's only one fucking other party from back then that would have access to the ancient weapons. But sure, Vegapunk doesn't know all that stuff, right? He doesn't know all that stuff for a fact. But then what is he trying to get people to do with the knowledge that ancient weapons exist today and that there might be bad actors that could misuse them. What is he trying to get the world to wake up and do, right? Again, is it just move to higher ground, walk on stilts? What is the purpose of that speech? What was the goal? What was it for? Because if you're not going to name the actor that they should be taking action against, which is likely the world government based on all the information that he has, and the fact that his motivation before this, as established by the O'Hara flashback, was to act against the world government, then why tell the people this random stuff? I don't get it. I don't get it. All right, let's move along. Okay, Eyes96, thanks for the 5. Distorted Future, I want a future where Morj is on time, does Bollywood dance, PS5 giveaway, and finishes Wano video. I can give you 2 out of those 4. I can be on time, and the Wano video. Akash Panda says he literally said he's just warning them. So it's just what is the... So is the goal of the warning just to get people to higher ground? To live on stilts? Why would he... clearly the goal should, why tell all that history if the goal does not involve acting against the world government? Because you can cut out all that history if you don't want people to act against the world government, right? You just really need to tell people, hey, this shit happened to Lulusia Kingdom, right? Water level rose, water level will keep rising, right? And it's likely due to ancient weapons that some people are using. I have no idea who, just some people. That's all you need to say. You need to say 4 things in the speech. Once you're adding in all that extra history about Joy Boy versus the world government, etc., then it's like, okay, so are you going to tell us who you should be worried about, who you should be fighting or something? He's like, no. That's it. All right, anyway. Deela Joyboy, thanks for the 20. Kendrick's concert was literally a victory lap. Had people of different Cali gangs on one stage, plus some NBA stars. I heard LeBron, I might have been wrong, performed Still Dre and California Love with Dre. Entire concert is on YouTube. Holy shit. Man. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this in and you know what's funny is these old school people, from the olden days, they're arguing nah, Nas, when he dropped Ether against Jay-Z, that was a bigger deal. Or Ice Cube's shit. People argue this stuff. I'm I feel I just have a heart. This was a war, right? This was back and forth, diss track after diss track. I feel this is just people romanticizing the past. There's no way that shit was anywhere near as interesting. Because those were just they just dropped one diss track 6 months apart or something like that. This was a war in real time, back and forth, with tactical moves. Family Matters, Meet the Grams. Shit like that was happening. This was way more interesting, right? Come on. I don't believe that people, I just don't believe that the past was better than whatever the fuck this happened, you know? Also, let's get the stream likes up to 300. New X7, thanks for the 10. Thoughts on Bonnie being a Figarland with her dad possibly being Garling or Shanks' brother. Also, if Carrot had to join the Straw Hats, how would you have written her to fit the formula of a crewmate? Oh, that's an interesting question. Bonnie being a Figarland, first of all, with that, I don't know. I think it's cooler if there's a little bit more variety that we get out of the Celestial Dragon families, because we're kind of just going through the same families over and over again. It's maybe a little bit less interesting. We've already got the Don Quixote family a lot out of them. We've got Garling, a little bit of stuff there, Charlos and all of that. So I don't know. I think it'd be cool if it'd be a different family. If Carrot had to join the Straw Hat, I think the very simple thing would be with Carrot joining the Straw Hat, the simple right away, the simple, right off the bat, I thought it was a little too simple. I thought that she would have to learn some sort of a lesson before joining the Straw Hats. But I think the opportunity for a lesson or growth presented itself when she fought Perospero, and Perospero left her with, I forget the exact dialogue, but something along the lines of humbling her in a sense, and kind of he said something about how her attitude towards Pedro's death, she had the wrong idea, or she's not ready for there was some stuff he left with her, right? Some areas for her to grow. I don't remember the exact details, but I did think that it would be cool to see Carrot come back from that with a newer perspective and basically mature in some way. That's all. Just grow in some way. such that you now fit like as an actual member of the Strahd crew instead of just like thinking that, you know, it'll be a fun time or something like that. Goomba Boomba, thanks for the 2. Do you think the Egghead incident is Vegapunk's speech? I think that this has been a big enough incident that it will count as like Vegapunk's speech was a huge ass deal. I'm just disappointed that it feels like not the big ass trigger that we were hoping, like the world was probably like needing, you know, just get the final war rolling. Because all it's done is raise questions for people, you know, like people still are just like, what? The world government being evil? Why the hell would they do that? And it's like, Vegapunk wants the world to know that the world government is evil. Like, we know from his conversation with Dragon out in Ohara. So it's just like, if you missed on that basic principle in your final moments, when you have the entire world's ear, and you can tell them some stuff about the world government. Like, you don't even have to tell them about, like, they have the ancient weapons if you don't want. But you can tell them everything else that the world government hides. I don't know. I don't know, man. But I do think that that's the incident. Because if you're the Gorosei, you're probably sitting there like, we just got away scot-free, basically. Like, we really, that could have been a lot worse. They could have said that we have Uranus and shit like that, you know? They could have said that we're going to enact a great cleansing or something. Like, they could have done a lot worse there, right? Also, let's get the stream likes up to 300 real quick. Chris says everyone blaming Perospero for Pedro blowing himself up. Black Lightning, thanks for the 5. No, her having the fear of her powerlessness against Saturn made her mindset think her future was certain when she felt she could never overcome it. I'm going to be honest. I think that we kind of just need to wait on maybe a bit more of an elaborate explanation of how her powers work. Because at the moment, it's like, one, let's see how well she can copy the Nika abilities next chapter. I think we'll just get a better idea of the restrictions once it's explained. I think that's the simplest way to put it. I had my interpretation, but my interpretation is based on very little. It's just one statement and kind of what we've seen from the chapters and kind of how I view Oda as presenting the character of Bonnie and what she's supposed to represent in the context of this arc, right? So I think we're just going to have to wait. So unfortunately, that's just the answer for the moment. Dila Joyboy, thanks for the 10. Do you think Bonnie will have the same repercussions coming out of Gear 5 like Luffy? But since she doesn't actually have the Nika fruit, she can't bounce back like Luffy. Ooh, that's a good question. I think she should have the same repercussions. Otherwise, it's just strictly better, which I think is kind of absurd. And she can't bounce back. I think she'll just bounce back like Luffy the same way. Like, I don't think it's his rubberiness that's necessarily letting him bounce back. I think it's just, you know, you heal up, basically. Like, you regenerate your stamina. I don't know. Dick so small, I piss on my balls. Thanks for the 5. Some proof for my time travel piece theory that you may find interesting. The golden bell on Skypiea has monkeys wearing straws on it. What? There is no fucking way. Skypiea golden bell. There's no fucking way. Also, let's get the stream likes at 300 real quick. Does it have monkeys wearing... Oh my god. It does have something that looks like monkeys wearing straw hats. I'm not going to comment on that any further, but it does certainly look like that. Jade FW, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 19 months. Thank you for the long-term support. Yo, random question. Has the geography of Onigashima/Egghead felt hard to follow for you? A lot of characters in these arcs, sure, but I feel like it has been harder to keep a mental image of layout than past arcs. So I'm going to be honest. I'm glad you bring that up. I feel embarrassed to say this as a, you know, YouTuber, content creator, whatever. But this isn't my focus, I suppose. Like, I don't care too much about this aspect of things, but Egghead is probably the first arc in One Piece where, like, there have been arcs in One Piece where, like, I am iffy on, like, the geography. Like, I remember when they were fighting in Enies Lobby, and they're all fighting in very different locations, and, you know, I feel like there's a bridge that goes under the water, there's, like, a bridge that goes, there's a tower after that, then there's a bridge that goes over the water. Like, now I've reread the arc enough times, I get it, but when it's going on, I'm a little iffy on the geography. I think that with Egghead specifically, out of every arc ever, period, that I've read in One Piece, this arc is probably the one where I'm most tuned out of the geography of the island, if that makes sense. Like, I'm if I like actually paid attention to it and tried to keep a mental map, and maybe obviously on reread, I think I'll try and keep a mental map. It'd be different. But with Egghead, I genuinely could not tell you where several characters were for solid stretches of the arc. And I guess that's embarrassing to say, but that wasn't really my concern. I should have just paid better attention to that, I suppose. But I just, yeah, like I think it's one of the more varied island geographies that we've ever seen, because there's just different layers to it, right? There's the island, but then there's the actual sky cloud, there's the lab, etc. Like there's a lot of layers to it, and as to where characters are dispersed throughout it, and then even like which shore characters are on, or like where they're traveling from. So yeah, Egghead has probably been the worst I've ever been in terms of island geography. I should probably just like actually take a moment to pay attention and sift through the mental the map of it. Onigashima was a little different in the sense that I did like Onigashima. I remember I would visit Reddit every once in a while because some people on Reddit would go and post nice diagrams of where all the characters were that I found very helpful. However, at the very least with Onigashima, I don't think I was ever confused too much on like the actual layout of the island. I think I understood the layout of the island and generally the various levels to it. There was only so many levels going up and down. Then there's the rooftop. Then there's basement floor 1, basement floor 2, or something like that. Like the island itself, it was top to bottom relatively straightforward, right? It's just what I was confused on very frequently was where different characters are. That was where I was confused on. Egghead's a little different in the sense that I'm unfamiliar, not just very often with where characters are, but literally the layout of the island. I don't think I ever really got a solid mental map of, you know. So until Oda actually started physically showing the map a little bit more frequently. So, you know, Dressrosa geography was easy. Dressrosa, I think, was the first arc that I remember that like the maps became really, really prominent. It was still like a thing in other arcs like Enies Lobby and shit, but Dressrosa became really prominent. And it would just be chapters on chapters of just us waiting for characters to transition from like this level to that level, you know, shit like that. Or like, yeah, I just remember the map was very slow to get through, if that makes sense. Because we had to watch Luffy get through a bunch of levels. Sometimes he'd be stalled at a certain level. Then he gets to the top level. And then we get hit with like flashbacks. And then all the other fights on all the levels. And then, you know, Luffy's getting up the levels. Other characters are catching up the levels. It was a pain in the ass. Also, let's get the stream likes to 300 real quick. But that's a good question. I feel like I got something off my chest saying that, because it feels wrong to admit that I'm not familiar too much with like Egghead's actual, or I haven't been like, there was a solid stretch of chapters where I wasn't too familiar with Egghead's island geography. But I guess I feel better now. Yeah, like let me be fully honest. Okay, so when Nami, Usopp, and them are like up top and like they're waiting for like the cloud to extend so that it could move past a barrier and then the ship and them can come down, when that plot point was established, I was just like, what the fuck is happening? That was the moment that I realized that I understood Egghead's island geography even less than I previously realized. And I think after that, I started to actually have to actively understand it, if that makes sense. So I'm sorry, I just got to get that off my chest, that I feel good admitting that. Like when they just started explaining that, they're like, yes. I was like, I wonder where these I was like, all right, Usopp, Nami, and their crew, like this gang, all right, like I wonder where they've got the ship. I wonder where they're at right now. They're like, yeah, so we're gonna make the clouds extend past a barrier and then we're gonna drop the ship into the ocean below, and then we'll be good. And then we're at the giant ship. I was just like, yeah, I've missed something here. I don't know where the fuck they are right now. Trevor Elliott says, oh crap, it's relevant now, panic. Yeah, I think that was a moment where I was like, okay, I gotta actually learn where the fuck these characters are situated at the moment. Daniel Allen, thanks for the 5. Low-key, Dennis's presentation in Time's Up for the Gang may be funnier than the implication. Oh, dude, Dennis's entire that is one of my favorite It's Always Sunny moments ever. Like, I think it's my favorite It's Always Sunny monologue ever. Maybe my favorite, like, comedy monologue ever done in a TV show. It is, like, I think the implication is a very edgy humor, dark type thing that, like, you can show somebody who doesn't know It's Always Sunny and get them the idea very quickly. But for a full finale to an episode, the Time's Up thing was brilliant. Prophet Gluten, thanks for the 10. I'm guessing Buggy will somehow end up recruiting the rest of the warlords, who will then have to fight their Seraphim counterparts in the final war, while the Monster Trio fight their Gorsei matchups. Thank you for your third super ever. I don't find that particularly interesting personally, because I'm just like, it's just, they're just fighting their own clones, right? I would rather see a variety of matchups going on, you know? Especially because the Seraphim all probably have similar tricks as to how to defeat them, like how to get past their invulnerability or whatever. Yeah, I would just rather see them fight somebody more interesting, I suppose. So that's my personal preference. Bunfagun, thanks for the 7. Morj, do you think Kuma is going to sacrifice himself just like Pedro did? Maybe the self-destruct mechanism can be brought back into focus. I would love for Kuma to go out like that. One final sacrifice after he's seen, you know, Luffy as Nika, his daughter as Nika. I think one final sacrifice would be really, really good. Ramen Stains, thanks for the 5. Didn't Vegapunk say that the battle being fought today is the one from the Void Century, meaning the world government is the enemy? I mean, that would be nice if it wasn't just like implied. Like, it means I would have just like it's implied, yes, but clearly from people's reactions to what Vegapunk is saying, it's not clicking for them that the world government are the ones with the ancient weapons who are blowing shit up, right? That's the big issue that I have with this whole speech, because I'm just like, that's the fucking important part. That's the important part. Tell them that. Lead with that. That should have been the beginning of your speech. Lead with that, then get to the world being buried under the sea, and then, you know, if we have got time at the end, tell them about Joy Boy, this dude from back then, a pirate who could stretch. Maybe that's like the least important bit of information that you need to be sharing right now. That's just my opinion. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm crazy. But that's just my opinion. Akash Panda says there is no bomb in Kuma. I think that was like, what do you call? That was established, but at the same time, I still would like Kuma to sacrifice himself in some way. Like, I still want him going out in some way. So, let's wait and see. Ramen Stains, no, we covered this. Aespa Comeback, thanks to the 5. This is a PSA for chat. Furiosa comes out on streaming next week. It's an amazing movie. Check it out, y'all, and support visionaries like George Miller. I'm not a big Mad Max person, but I respect the the filmmaking. I didn't even I respect the movie Mad Max Fury Road. It just wasn't my thing. I guess not my style of action. Like, it's really cool, it's really epic, etc. I've just never been a big car chase person, and the set pieces are very similar as you go on across the movie. It's very impressively shot, really, really cool vision. Just not my style of action personally. So I was never gonna watch Furiosa myself, but I'm sure it's a really good movie. I've heard people say it's better than Mad Max, so I don't know. Fatingo, thanks for the 5. I think it's been a minute since I've seen you. After this, how do you feel about the execution of Vega/Stella as a character? Were you disappointed in the intelligence of the world's smartest man? Let's see if Vegapunk's got one last trick up his sleeve. Let's see if he's got one last... Let me clarify. I think I've been saying this, which is I really love Vegapunk's entire monologue. It is actually a really, really cool just section of the story in One Piece. It's really, really, really cool. And I thought it's a well-written monologue. I think Oda got a fairly nuanced character out of Vegapunk, so I respect that. I'm going on a bit of a rant here, partly for entertainment purposes on stream, because people like when I go on rants, but also just because, like, as I muse over it myself a little bit, I'm like, why didn't he tell them this part? And so I'm a little upset about that, but at the end of the day, let me take a breath, reread Egghead Island. I liked what Oda did with the character of Vegapunk at the end, because I feel like Vegapunk came across as, like, you know, this tragic hero type of character fairly well, and I think that he did turn out to be a more dimensions to the character than I would have initially expected. I found him interesting at the end of the day. So I'm still cool with it. Scrump, thanks for the 10. Possible Vegapunk believes 99.99% that it's world government that has Uranus, but it's not confirmed without a shadow of a doubt. But there's still that 0.01%, so it's still theory and conjecture. But wouldn't Vegapunk still want the world, like the people of the world, to turn against the world government? Isn't that still one of his goals, going back to his conversation with Dragon? So at the end of the day, even like you don't have to lie to them, but you could say my theory is that the world government has it. Also, the world government has done this, and like list off the shit that people don't know about. I don't know. Gunner455, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 13 months. Bonnie is only OP because she is young. As she gets older and less futures are available, it's nerfed. Maybe it'll only happen with Nika physically present. So that's what I was saying. I appreciate that comment because that's what I was saying towards the beginning of the stream, but not as many people, like, there's been some pushback and some people disagree that that's the correct interpretation of Bonnie's abilities. Where I'm at now is we just gotta wait and see. We just gotta wait and see. We'll see her fighting more in full action next chapter, and I think we'll get more clarification as to how her abilities likely work in depth next chapter, I think. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 300 real quick. Oreo, thanks for the 5. Very poetic that the girl whose entire life was destroyed by sapphire scales, not able to step into the sun, became the sun god. Holy shit, I did not think about that. I did not think about that. That is a great point. Sorry, I'm just ordering something really quick. That is a really, really good point. I did not think about that either. Growth Stonks, thanks for the 5. The ancient weapons are chariots from Hindu mythology called Vimana. Uranus is the Emerald City, and based on the Pushback, Vimana the flowery chariot. Pushback is... Hold on, that's whose chariot? Is Pushback... Is that Ravan's chariot, or am I totally off? Ravan's chariot. Ravana's chariot. Yeah, Pushback of Vimana. Yeah, okay. I'm going to pat myself on the back here a little bit just because, like, I grew up with Hindu mythology and everything like that. Like, I just really loved Hindu mythology stories. I think I told you guys about the comics, Amar Chitrakatha and everything like that. So I feel like, I don't know, it feels good just remembering an obscure bit of information like that. I don't know, it just feels cool. It feels like, I don't know, nostalgic. One of a memorable story about Ravan and his chariot is that one time, like, he was flying in Pushpaka and he reached a mountain. Ravan is the, okay, fun little side tangent. Okay, Ravan in Hindu mythology is like the most famous demon, I suppose. They're called Rakshas in Hindu mythology, but he's the most famous of them all. 10 heads, villain of the Ramayana, just infamous, I believe immortal, I forget. Just extremely powerful, like, emperor Raksha demon, right? And one day he's flying in his chariot, and he comes across this mountain that his chariot can't fly over. And the chariot just refuses to fly over this mountain. And this is Ravan. He's like a big-ass deal. This is like the baddest dude on the planet, right? He's like, what the fuck? Why is my chariot not flying over this mountain? I order you to fly over this mountain. And it's just like, no, it's not happening. This chariot's not flying over the mountain. He's like, what the fuck? This is my flying chariot. It's supposed to fly over anything because I'm fucking Ravan. So I believe what happens next is, like, Ravan gets off the chariot, and I think he, like, shakes the mountain or something like that. And it turns out to be... guess whose mountain it turns out to be? Guess whose mountain? Guess whose mountain this turns out to be? Shiva. That's right. Shiva's mountain. I'm sure you guys know Shiva, probably the most infamous Hindu god. That or Krishna, I suppose, but Krishna is the incarnation of Vishnu. But Shiva is kind of like the visually well-known one, right? Turns out to be Shiva's mountain. And then Ravan's like, oh, fuck, I fucking shook Shiva's mountain. I don't want to be doing that. But Shiva forgives him because, like, there was some other bullshit going on that Ravan shaking the mountain helped sort out. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed that bit of education. Keep in mind, I know this story from a Hindu comic, so it might not be 100% lore accurate, but, you know, the lore is the lore. It may be not 100% accurate, but that's what I remember. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, it's a cool story. Anyway, moving on. Rohan, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 8 months. Morj has the outrage of a teacher's assistant who just read an essay without a thesis. Thinking back to, like, college and just remembering, like, TAs, I'm like, man, TAs were just like people. Like, they were younger than me. A lot of them probably. Like, some were my age that I am right now. Some are, like, a little bit younger. Some are a little bit older. I'm 28, but, like, I'm sure a lot of TAs were like that age. I'm like, man, TAs were just, they're just people. That's crazy. They're just people. It's like, you're in charge of us. you're only in charge of us because the professor doesn't actually want to teach us right now. So he like just took some random kid slash person and just put him in front of the classroom and was like, you teach them. Because the professor doesn't want to teach. I don't know. TAs are funny. That they just existed. Anyway, not a pro 64. Thanks to the 5. Being a professor must be so nice. Life is just so lax. You have teacher's assistants who do stuff. You teach classes, but you're not too invested. It's just, I don't know. It must be nice. Not a pro 64. Thanks to the 5. Bonnie greater than Kizaru. I think Vegapunk is going to name drop Imu's full name, and it will have a D in it. That, or he says something with Blackbeard. I don't think Bonnie's above Kizaru. I mean, like, Kizaru's still got his actual combat abilities. Like, as far as we know, Bonnie doesn't have, like, top-tier Haki and stuff like that. I'm sure there's other stuff. Like, let's see how she does next chapter. I think she will do well next chapter, but I don't think she's going to be, like Yonko level necessarily right now. I don't know. We'll see. I think Vegapunk is going to name drop Imu's full name, and it will have a D in it. That, or he says something with Blackbeard. That is very possible. Dropping Imu's full name, at that point, I would just reveal, like, as long as you reveal that Imu exists, that's the big bombshell, you know? Ganesh is Shiva's son? Yes. But here's the thing. Shiva didn't even want him as a son. Ganesh is actually sculpted from, like, Parvati's body. That's Shiva's wife. So that, this is the wildest. I've told the story on stream before. It's always a bizarre story to explain. But Ganesh, the origin of Ganesh, if you know, is the Indian god with an elephant's head. And the way this came to be was because one day Parvati, Shiva's wife, didn't like that her husband kept just walking into the bath without, like, when she's taking a bath without you know, just intruding upon her without her permission, I suppose. And she got so tired of her husband just being a peeping Tom that she sculpted a child out of her own body. Like, she just sculpted a child out of her own body in clay and stuff like that. And then she had the child guard her bath against Shiva. And this child is Ganesh, by the way. And then this child refuses to let Shiva in, and it just causes a whole commotion. And eventually Shiva has, like, he has his servants come and try and kick Ganesh out, and they fail. Then Shiva has, like, his top soldiers try and kick Ganesh out, and they fail. Then Shiva just, like, goes all in and calls the army. Like, he calls in a whole shit ton of other gods to try and beat up Ganesh so that he can go peep on his wife. And they all fail. And then eventually Shiva himself cuts off Ganesh's head with a trident. And so finally, after, like, a whole bunch of trouble, they have succeeded. Like, Shiva has succeeded in getting rid of this one kid that his wife created. And he's murdered him. Except, you know what happens then? Then Parvati gets really fucking pissed. And so she, like, calls down these incarnation alter egos of her. It's hard to explain. Kali and Durga to cause terror across the world because she's so pissed. And then Shiva's like, oh, fuck, I shouldn't have killed this kid. And then he's just like, all right, we got to fix this ASAP. Someone go find me a head, because Shiva decapitated the kid. He's like, someone go find me a head that I can place on this kid to fix it, because that's how Hindu mythology works. And then I believe it's Vishnu, at least in the version that I read, Vishnu goes out and he's like, well, Shiva just said find a head. I'm sure he's not too picky what the head looks like. And so Vishnu sees a fucking random ass elephant walking around. Vishnu cuts off its head. And then he comes back to Shiva with this elephant's head. And he's like, here, you said you wanted a head. And Shiva's like, fuck it, I guess this is good enough. And then he just puts the head on the dead kid's body. And then voila, it works. And now Ganesh is walking around with his fucking elephant head. And he's like, Mom, look, I'm all better. And Parvati's like, well, he looks uglier, but it'll do. And then they're a happy family again. So, and for some reason, I think Ganesh is the god of, what is he the god of? God of luck? Ganesh is the god of what? What is Ganesh the god of? Remover of obstacles, prosperity, health, luck, things like that. He's one size fits all. He's, you know, it's hard to place him. His story's whack. Anyway, let's get the stream likes up to 350. Anyway, that's basically how it went. if I got a few parts wrong, forgive me. I read these through Hindu comics, like Hindu comics called the Amar Chitrakatha. So maybe those exaggerated some aspects of it, but I promise you, the version that I just told is under-exaggerating how insane that comic was. Because the comic, it was basically like World War III. Like, all the fucking Hindu gods in existence, like World War III, against this random-ass kid that Parvati made that morning who was guarding her bath. And it was actually like Hindu World War III. Like, everybody against fucking Ganesh. And then it just has the most random ending ever. Anyway. Uchek, thanks for being a Pirate King member for the last 21 months. Dope chapter. Thank you, man. I'm glad you enjoyed it. A lot of people, it seems like, enjoyed it. It just seems like maybe a lot of people on Twitter maybe didn't. But that's the way it goes sometimes, you know. What does this say? Oh, no. Did I scroll down too far? No, I did. Tuna Sub, thanks for the 5. On the topic of comedy shows, gotta shout out one of my favorite gags. Buster losing his hand to a Lucille after the whole Lucille debacle. If you have never seen Arrested Development, I cannot recommend that show enough, but you really, really, really need to be prepared to binge like 10 episodes of it before you start finding it funny. It's a very difficult show to just drop people into, because normally for like any show that I like that's a sitcom, I kind of have like an episode usually in mind that I'm like, okay, if I'm introducing this show to a new person, I would start with this episode, right? Usually not episode 1, but usually some episode, right, that I think is funny, that'll give them the idea of the show, right? Arrested Development, you can't do that. It's not funny for a long time because it is a show that, like lots of shows have running gags, obviously. Arrested Development's humor relies almost 90% on running gags. It is the most running gag-focused comedy I've ever seen. It is near impossible to drop anyone into a random episode of Arrested Development. You can't pick one. You can't pick a random episode of Arrested Development and have someone find it funny. It is too running gag dependent, basically. Anyway. But Arrested Development is probably my favorite comedy. Bunfagum, thanks for the 7. Thoughts on the idea that Zoro versus Mihawk should be an entire volume to itself, meaning no cutaways? I don't know if Oda's ever going to do that, man. I think that... Because, like, even Luffy fights are never like that. Like, there's no Luffy... I can't imagine a Luffy fight that's an entire volume, no cutaways, you know? I feel like Zoro versus Mihawk will probably be longer than, like, Zoro versus King. But I don't imagine we'll get something like even Luffy versus Kaido length. I think if we're being optimistic, maybe Zoro versus Mihawk will be like Luffy versus Katakuri length, where we get several chapters that are, like a few chapters at least, that are solely focused on Zoro versus Mihawk, and then the other stuff being cutaways, and it takes place over like a good stretch of time, you know? Peter Falk, thanks for the 20. Holy shit, man. This Bonnie Nika development has me thinking that we may be building to an army of Nikas, or if that was what happened in the Void Century. I don't know if I'd like that, man. With Nika, the Minks have control over their Sulong form and don't go berserk. Ooh, that is a nice twist to add into it, including the Minx aspect. But I don't know. I think I just don't like the idea of like a shit ton of Nikas personally. That's just not my I don't know. I don't know. I like Luffy's uniqueness, and then Bonnie seems to be... I'm sorry, I'm just ordering something before I forget. Bonnie seems to be following Luffy's footsteps, so it's like, fuck, this store is closed. All right. Shit. Okay. And Bonnie seems to be following in Luffy's footsteps, so I'm like, okay, it's cool that she can do it too. She's like the successor in a sense. But if it's just everyone's Nika, then I'm like, I don't enjoy that as much. Especially because the power itself is so wacky and zany. I'm like, how do you even do that with like a large cast of characters that can do that? I don't know. Ignorant Weed, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 9 months. Did you ever heard of the Doc Sake theory that Greenbow's power might make Weevil look like Whitebeard like he did with Shinobu? Oh, because he can drain him? That'd actually be really funny. That'd be funny, but it's not going to be like a buff or anything in any sort of way. I don't know. That'd be funny, but not... That's just a funny possible development. I could definitely see that. And then Weevil will think... what do you call? Weevil will think even more that he looks like Whitebeard. New X7, thanks for the 2, says, wasn't it already confirmed that it's Nerona Imu? But I guess they meant confirmed for the people of the One Piece world rather than for us. Because for us, it's like, yeah, it's probably Saint Imu Nerona. Sorry, my neck's kind of hurting. I think the bigger reveal would just be revealing to the people that, hey, this dude named Imu exists, you know? Gerard Williams, thanks for the 5. Like, you know what I mean? Like an immortal ruler of the world. That would be a big deal. Gerard Williams, thanks for the 5. Bonnie ain't hitting a shooting star bazooka attack. And thank you for your first super ever. I do appreciate the support. Yeah, I don't know. I imagine Bonnie will have her own moveset to some degree. And I don't think Bonnie's going to be as strong as Luffy. I just imagine that she'll be able to do a lot of similar Nika type things, but she's not going to have the Haki or like the same capacity probably to do it. Jack D. Slime, thanks for the 2. Hindu mythology stream when? Any stream can turn into a Hindu mythology stream. I still remember a lot of wacky shit that happened in Hindu mythology. I personally think that Hindu mythology, from the mythologies that I know of, I think that Hindu mythology is the most interesting. I do know a lot about Greek mythology because I was always interested in that, and then I also even took like a class, like a BS elective on Greek mythology in college. So I feel like I know a good amount of Greek mythology. Norse, I don't know a ton. Like Hindu, I think I know a ton of Bible stories. I think Hindu mythology, as far as I know, is the most interesting because Hindu mythology, like, it gets really, like, let me tell you this: the Hindus, the old school Hindus, they're power scalers. They get into this shit. Like, they get very excited about this shit. Like, let me tell you something. So, like, just the scale of the way things go gets really, really crazy. So like there's a lot of really wacky ass stories that happen, and then there's 2 really huge epics, like kind of like how Greek mythology has the Odyssey and the Iliad. Greek mythology has the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, and I think both are. I think Ramayana is like a very classic good evil type story, and the Mahabharata is a fucking trip. The Mahabharata is like a very, very like philosophically nuanced and kind of messy and dark. Mahabharata is kind of like. It's kind of like, okay, if like the Ramayana is like One Piece, kind of, then the Mahabharata is kind of like Hunter x Hunter. You get what I'm saying? Does that make sense? But just like the vibe, I suppose. But the Mahabharata gets very, very dark in places and very, very, like there's a lot of really interesting stories that go to human nature and right and wrong and like the complexities of that throughout the Mahabharata. One Piece and Hunter x Hunter is a very reductive way to look at it or whatever. But Ramayana and Mahabharata, 2 amazing epics. But the smaller Hindu stories are also really, really fucking interesting. Like the random side stories. So like, let me tell you this. Like Vishnu. I've told this story on stream before, but it's just an idea to think about it, okay? So like the king of the, like there's the gods, which are like Indra, Ashura, stuff like that, right? And then there's like the gods, which is Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. All right, those are the big 3, and they're like on a whole different level. And so there was one story about like Vishnu rides around on this bird falcon type person thing, like a humanoid, like a griffin type thing called Garuda. Okay, it's kind of famous, the Garuda. Actually, Judge's nickname in One Piece Judge, the Garuda. Is that right? Yeah, also known as Garuda. It's named after that. Because like Judge kind of flies and shit. So Garuda is like Vishnu's horse, basically. Like Vishnu just flies around on this thing, right? But Vishnu's horse essentially has its own fucking backstory that's very complex. And like the Garuda's backstory is like kind of crazy, and it's hard to explain. Like Garuda in himself is like an extremely powerful being that like grew up in certain environments and like defeated Rakshas and stuff like that, monsters. And then there was a certain point where like Indra, the king of the gods, right, runs into Garuda, and like Indra's pissed or something like that, so he throws like a lightning bolt. Indra's also the god of lightning. Indra's like the Zeus of like Hindu mythology. Indra throws a bolt of lightning at Garuda. It hits Garuda, doesn't faze him at all, and Indra's like, holy shit, like, how powerful are you? Like, it didn't phase you at all. And Garuda's like, this is how powerful I am. So one single one of my, on like, the entire, you and the world and the entire universe and all the cosmos and all things within it, I could hold on the tip of one of my feathers if I so chose. All right? And then Indra's just like, oh shit, well then I'd better leave you alone. And then he goes on his way. And then Garuda meets Vishnu, and Vishnu's like, you want to be my horse? And then Garuda's like, I guess I'll be your horse for like the rest of eternity or something. I forget the details as to why Garuda became Vishnu's horse, but that just gives you an idea. Because there's like the gods, like Indra and his squad of gods, like Indra, Ashura, the traditional gods, and then there's like the big three gods, which are like, again, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, and they're like so far above it, like they're so far above all creation that Vishnu's fucking horse could like basically solo all the lower gods, like Indra and all that shit. Does that make sense? It's basically like Indra is like a really fucking big deal. Like he's our Zeus, right? But just imagine you have like Zeus and Poseidon and all that shit, right? That stuff exists. Or like the equivalent of like our Thor or like Odin and all that shit. Like imagine that level of gods exist. But then it's just like, yeah, but there's also this whole other level, which is like a million, like billion, infinite times stronger. And like, they're just like the gods that are like way more powerful than these bullshit, like Zeus, Poseidon type gods. It's just, I don't know who came up with that, but that's just the way that it is. So, yeah. Anyway, Jack D. Slime says Vishnu versus Zeus, who wins? Based on feats, Vishnu destroys, right? But like, if you argued like, you know, I don't know. If you argue that like each mythology's like strongest god should basically be the equivalent, then I suppose Vishnu and Zeus is equal. But based on like feats, right? Like, you know, Zeus's feats are shit like planetary stuff, or I guess sky stuff. Like, I mean, they do stuff like hold up the sky and like the stars and stuff like that. So that's true. But like, again, put it this way: based on feats, I feel like Vishnu's horse Garuda should take Zeus, in my opinion. Like, because the real equivalent of Zeus in Hindu mythology is Indra. I don't know. I don't want to get into comparing religions and stuff like that. That's its own whole thing. That's not right. And I'm going to be biased, obviously, because I like Hindu mythology a lot. Greek mythology is really cool, but, you know, it's different. Anyway. Let's keep moving. Hold on. Anuj Agrawal, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 21 months. Rebuilding your theory cloud/accuracy rate after the raid, I could almost cry. That's true. That does feel good, too. That does feel good. I can't lie. Hope you're doing well, dude. Excited for manga Morj content eventually. Let's say eventually. I will say the Wano analysis, I will be done before Egghead ends. I've been saying that, but I will be done before Egghead ends. And then hopefully I can work on manga Morj. Akash Panda says, nah, Indra ain't no Zeus. I might be underselling Zeus there. Because Zeus, like, it's just complicated. Because, you know, the Greeks, the way they talked about certain things, like certain gods represented the whole sky. Like, if I recall correctly, like Uranus was literally the sky, right? The sky and the earth. Like, how do you measure something that represents the sky, right? Like, they didn't even know how stars and all that stuff work, right? They didn't know the scale of the universe in the first place. So it's tricky. But I feel like Zeus has always been portrayed as more of a limited god in that, like Zeus is fallible in the sense that like he has fights like with Typhon and stuff like that like you go back and forth, right? Like it's more of like Zeus is like this really powerful, like the strongest of the gods, whereas Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, like Vishnu is more like the like these are more written like the Judeo-Christian type gods, like essentially omnipotent, and Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva are essentially more like they're written in the sense that they're all one part of one being, almost, if that makes sense. They're just three sides of that being, depending on different interpretations. So they're more supposed to be close to like Judeo-Christian type omnipotent, like just beings, basically. Like Vishnu's incarnations, like Ram and Krishna, they can have like fights and battles and stuff like that against, you know, like Ravan, for example. But Vishnu himself is essentially treated as untouchable in Hindu mythology. For the most part. That's actually not even 100% accurate. It's complicated. They're closer to how Judeo-Christian God, like Almighty, is written than like a Zeus, basically. But it's not quite the same. They're still like because the Judeo-Christian God is just written as like truly omnipotent, omniscient, like like truly omnipotent, right? It's just different. Like there'll be light, there's light, that sort of shit, right? It's a little bit different. Anyway, let's keep moving. Lars Mango, thanks a lot for the 7. Are we ready to admit that Egghead has less tension than Wano with Dory and Broggy dancing while the ship is on fire? Everything is fine, as seen. Yeah, but I always felt like Egghead was never supposed to be like a super high tension arc in the first place. It is like a lower tension arc than Wano. I agree. But at the same time, Egghead was just supposed to be like a fucking side adventure that randomly got very scary in the middle. Like, not very scary in the middle, but like randomly got partway through a lot more dramatic than we expected, you know? Like, we've already been hit with the moments where, like, holy shit, all 5 Gorosei just showed up, and now it seems overwhelming and stuff like that. And we've kind of moved past that, and now it's kind of like the Strats are going to kick their ass. Like, there's a different, like, I don't weigh each arc with the same level of, like, I don't expect a random arc, like, I don't hold anything against Zoe for not being as tense as, like, any slobby. It's just different arcs. Going into Egghead, most people thought that this was going to be more of a Zoe-type arc. Any sort of additional excitement, drama, surprise, etc. that happened, that was all kind of out of the blue, right? Like, it was all just sudden, you know what I mean? Wano is very different in that it's a war that was built up for hundreds of chapters, like going back God knows how long, how many arcs, how many like storylines, how many hundreds of chapters, how many years. It's been built up, and then within the Wano arc itself, like from Act 1, you're just building up hundreds of chapters, like, or not hundreds of chapters, you're building up and building up to a big-ass war. That's very, very different. That war is, like, for, like, a war that's got that level of buildup, like a level of buildup that puts Marineford to shame, for it to have, like, to be the least tense major conflict in One Piece up to that point, that's kind of insane. Like, I don't hold it against Egghead. Like, for me, anything Egghead's been doing so far is essentially far surpassing the sort of the setup that we were initially even given, right? It's a surprise that things have gotten to be as challenging as they have in the first place. It's all been a pleasant surprise, right? It's like, first we were just happy that Kizaru's coming over. Then it's like, oh shit, it's Kizaru and Saturn. And Saturn's basically got all the Strats cornered, and Luffy's knocked out and stuff, and it's like, oh, fuck, like, we did not expect in Egghead for the Strats to ever end up in this situation. And then from there, it's like, okay, now Luffy's got a handle on Kizaru and Saturn, now there's fucking 5 Gorosei, and now the Strats are basically all trying to escape. That stuff is, like, cool. Like, it's all gravy. Like, nobody was going into this arc being like, oh my god, I can't wait for them to fight 5 Gorosei, that's gonna be such a big, like, that's gonna be so tense or whatever. It's, like, pleasant surprises that the arc is actually turning out to be a bit more serious and dramatic than we initially expected, with a higher level of challenge than we expected, right? Wano, not the same. Arc that's been built up for like 300 chapters, war that's been built up for like hundreds of chapters, right? Like, this is supposed to be the war to end all wars. Not the war to end all wars, but a bigger war than anything that's come before. And they literally start the war being like, well, we literally can't lose. Let's plan the party for after we win the war. There is not, like, forget One Piece. Let's put One Piece out of it. There is not a single comparable war storyline in all of fiction to Wano when it comes to undercutting the tension from the very beginning of the fight, making it clear that nobody is worried, nobody's concerned from the very beginning of the fight, making it clear that there's no reason to believe that, like, losing is even a possibility from the beginning of the fight. At every single turn when any sort of tension ramps or, like, actually takes place over the course of the war, making sure to undercut it by establishing that, hey, it doesn't matter. We all feel like pretty chillaxed about this whole thing, and we know we're going to win. There's never been anything that I cannot think of a single story in fiction that is remotely similar to how the Wano War was written in terms of, like, attempting to have any level of tension, suspense, even just the illusion that, hey, the protagonists are having trouble to the point that they're not casually certain that they're just going to walk out of here without a problem, right? It's just never happened. I've never seen that before. There's literally nothing I can compare to the Wano. Like, if you guys have read something similar to that, please let me know. But I've never read anything similar to that. Never. Not, like, forget what, like, you can ignore One Piece. Like, let's step outside of One Piece. Just in storytelling, period. In, like, the history of storytelling, you can pick whatever you want. Manga, anime, movies, TV shows, books, whatever you want to pick. Find me something else where the war begins with them party planning their victory because they assume they're going to win, and the characters starting the fight being like, I literally can't imagine us losing. I've never seen anything close to that. So, I don't know. Like, comparing this to Wano, it's not even close to the same thing in my opinion. Newx7, thanks for the 10. Morj, quick question. Hopefully I don't jinx it by bringing it up here. Writing a story with religious slash folklore elements. There any Hindu creature slash god representing sloth slash laziness slash depression or leisure? I don't actually know. Let's see. Classic Hindu gods. Because a lot of Hindu gods are like, Ganesh, like I talked about, which is from my understanding, was luck. Lakshmi, which is more so wealth and stuff. Saraswati, who's more like intelligence and stuff. I don't know about laziness. I don't know about laziness. I don't think that's a thing. I don't think that's a thing, personally. Ignorant Weed, thanks for the 2. Have you heard about the Sanji dog scene from Toei? I saw the clip, because it was on Twitter. Not much to say. It's just, the One Piece anime is the One Piece anime. Look, there's nothing much to think about it. It's just like, the One Piece anime is just going to take any possibility it can to drag out a moment and drag it out. That's just all it's going to do. There's no incentive not to do it. Their only incentive would be just from their good artistic merit being like, hey, we should treat this, source material with respect, but they don't really have that in them, right? They're just going to be like, fuck it, why not take it's a throwaway joke, but what if we took this throwaway joke and just dragged it out in a way that's, not funny at all, but hey, we kill some time, why not do it? That's just what Toei's going to do, right? I'm sorry it's at the expense of Sanji here, but it's just, it's just what Toei's going to do. Compy Sage, thanks for the 5. I would pay to hear more about that lore. Garuda is a Chad. Reminds me of that Yuruj comment on Zoro in Sabaody. He's so strong, but he's only the the vice captain. Yeah, yeah, that's a really good reference. Vape124, thanks for me. Oh, thank you for upgrading your membership to Pirate King tier. Holy shit! Hopefully you look forward to the podcast that'll be coming out very soon. The submissions will happen before the end of this month, basically, but you get access to all the previous Pirate King tier podcasts, and so I hope you enjoy. A lot of people who are Pirate King tier members say that is their favorite content that I do in general, so yeah, thank you for the support, and definitely get your submission in for the Pirate King tier podcast so that I can talk about it in the podcast. Jaren's Rambo, thanks for the 2. Why you think Oda didn't have Zoro and Sanji cry for the Mary? I think it's just keeping up a level of stoicism that's traditional for those characters, I think with Zoro, I think there's a certain power to having a character cry very infrequently. Zoro, he could have cried there maybe, but I think it just wouldn't have been fitting, and I think that Oda showed Zoro's care for Mary in other ways. He was actually the first one who, after hearing that Mary couldn't go on from Kaku, he was the first, I like this little moment where he's just on the ship by himself and he's asking Mary, is it true you really can't go on? You can see that Zoro views Mary as a crewmate. There's nobody else around. Zoro's talking to the ship, right? So you get that sense of what the ship means to Zoro, etc. He's just not an emotionally expressive person. Sanji, same thing, a certain level of stoicism. It just fits. I think all the reactions that we got on the Straw Hats fit their traditional level of how stoic they are versus how much emotion that they display. Because Sanji does display emotion, but it's usually more, the tears emotions is a bit more rare, right? Emotion is often more romantic emotion, fiery, angry emotion, stuff like that. Meek, what's up? Thanks for the 5. Everybody, Meek helped translate the chapter today. Everybody say thank you to Meek. Thanks, Meek. What do you think Yamato's cover story is going to lead to? I'm not going to lie, I didn't even look at the cover story today. What happened? Yamato's setting off. I think it might play into some sort of invasion by the end of it. Maybe some sort of invasion, because the borders being opened is still a hanging plot point, right? I just hope it leads to some level of character growth, because I'm cool with Yamato joining the ship. I really am. Just needs give me an arc. Akash Panda says Sanji has cried 3 times, Zoro once. Do we count childhood? If we count childhood, then I'm pretty sure Zoro cried when Kuina died, right? During the oath. Let me check the oath. Outside of that, Zoro cried with obviously losing the duel to Mihawk. Let me see. Also, Meek, can I ask you real quick? It feels like Thursday chapters are going to be the norm from here on out, right? Thursday chapters are going to be the norm. Please tell me that's going to be the norm from here on out, because next weekend I'm going to be out of town on Friday. So it would be very, very difficult to cover a chapter if it comes out on Friday. Please tell me Thursdays are the norm. It feels like it's been a Thursday streak for the last several chapters. Let me see. Did Zoro cry when Queen died? Yeah, Zoro cried when Queen died. Type 35 says, Morj, is Bonnie going to become a crewmate? I think Bonnie's going to become a crewmate, personally. I would definitely bank on that. All right, guys, I'm probably going to wrap stream in a couple minutes. Let's get the stream likes up to 350 before we do. Meek says, yes, that's likely to be the norm going forward. Thank you so much, Meek. Really, really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Akash Panda says, counting childhood, Zoro cried twice. Can't count how many times Sanji cried during his childhood. That's true. Sanji did have to cry. Adulthood is more fair, right? Thank you for the update, by the way, Meek. That's actually really great. All right, guys. Probably about to call stream. Yeah, I think now's a good time. All right, everybody. Thank you all for tuning in. This was a really fun stream. This was a cool chapter. Yeah, if not a controversial chapter, but cool chapter nonetheless. And yeah, thanks everybody. And yeah, I will talk to you all later. Really appreciate it.